The Zelkor fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, blotting out the stars with their warships. Admiral Vosk stood on the bridge of the command vessel, his 4 eyes scanning the blue planet below. His calculations were absolute. Human resistance would last no more than 6 hours and 42 minutes. It was a generous estimate. Across the fleet, drop pods fired toward the surface, carrying soldiers and war machines. Tactical AI projected the usual response: panic, disorder, and then surrender. Earth's leaders would struggle, attempt futile resistance, and ultimately accept their fate. The Zelkor had conquered thousands of worlds. This would be no different. A transmission interrupted the invasion clock. A human voice, steady and calm, spoke. "To the fleet hovering over our world, we hear your demands." Vosk smirked. The first step of the script. The bargaining phase. The voice continued. "And we reject them." The bridge fell silent. Vosk's mandibles clicked in irritation. This was unexpected, but deviations always corrected themselves. A last act of defiance before acceptance. Then something strange happened. His fleet's data streams began to flicker. Screens filled with unknown symbols. Nonsense images, moving erratically. His officers scrambled as their consoles flooded with noise. A repeating phrase in broken Zelkor script. "Get wrecked, aliens!" Vosk's irritation turned to confusion. His fleet's AI struggled to process the data storm. Tactical overlays became corrupted, targeting systems froze. The invasion clock, unchanging in all prior conquests, began to distort, flashing wildly between hours, minutes, and seconds. Reports flooded in. Ground forces were encountering strange distractions. Human resistance fighters had deployed something absurd: weaponized memes. Soldiers' HUDs were infected with incomprehensible images, laughing creatures, distorted faces, bizarre symbols that induced seizures in their targeting software. Drones began self-destructing as their systems overheated from processing the data overload. A fleet-wide alert sounded. The main systems had been breached, not by weapons, but by something hidden in a transmission. Vosk demanded an explanation. The answer came from his chief technician, voice trembling. "Sir, it was a file hidden inside a cat video." A pause. "A what?" "An image of a small terrestrial creature. It contained a self-replicating virus. It's in the primary network. We can't purge it." Vosk's claws tightened. This was impossible. No species had ever breached Zelkor encryption. The humans were primitives, inferior. Their technology wasn't capable of this. But then the flagship's lights dimmed. A power fluctuation rolled through the fleet as ships shut down one by one, their reactors going offline. Dread pooled in Vosk's gut as he realized he had lost control. The invasion clock blinked red, its countdown accelerating towards 0. The virus spread faster than any countermeasure could contain it. Alien warships, built for planetary conquest, were now helpless as their systems collapsed under the weight of human absurdity. Engines shut down mid-flight. Targeting arrays locked onto empty sky. Command signals were replaced with looping fragments of human nonsense, music, distorted laughter, a dancing figure in bright clothing. On the surface, resistance forces moved in. Not with brute force, but with calculated chaos. Fake distress calls led alien squads into empty streets, where their navigation systems rerouted them into dead ends. Troop transports landed in hostile zones, only to find their own weapons unresponsive. Entire battalions surrendered without a fight, their command links severed. Vosk's fleet was unraveling, and he had no answers. His communications officer struggled to override the interference, but the only message coming through was from the human broadcast. "Welcome to Earth," the voice said, casual, amused. "We hope you enjoy your stay." Panic spread. Officers barked conflicting orders, their once perfect battle doctrine in shambles. The Zelkor had simulations for every possible enemy counterstrike, but not for this. Not for something so fundamentally unpredictable. The fleet's automated defenses turned against them. Orbital cannons, meant to devastate Earth's cities, misfired and struck friendly vessels. Boarding craft, mid-descent, ejected their occupants into the void as life support systems malfunctioned. A war that should have lasted hours was spiraling toward defeat in mere minutes. Desperation took hold. Vosk ordered a full retreat, but the command failed to reach all ships. His forces, once a single, overwhelming force, had fractured into chaos, some units fleeing, others stuck in endless loops of recalculating battle plans that no longer made sense. The final blow came from within. A corrupted command relay broadcasted an unauthorized message fleet-wide, a Zelkor emergency directive. It read, "Immediate withdrawal. All forces retreat. ****. The words weren't human-made. The virus had tricked the fleet into ordering its own surrender. And in that moment, the war was over. The fleet collapsed in on itself. Ships veered off course, colliding mid-retreat. Battleships, once poised to rain fire on Earth, drifted aimlessly, their crews locked out of their own systems. Entire squadrons vanished into hyperspace, their navigational charts scrambled beyond recognition. What had started as a flawless invasion had become an uncoordinated, panicked exodus. On the command deck, Vosk stared at the chaos unfolding beyond the viewport. His empire had never known defeat, let alone humiliation. The invasion had been calculated to the last second. Every human weakness accounted for. Yet in mere minutes, it was all gone. His officers remained frozen at their stations, unwilling to speak. There was no battle left to fight. No counterattack to mount. The humans had won without firing a single planetary weapon. A final distress call echoed across the bridge. Garbled, desperate. A field commander pleading for guidance. "Admiral, our weapons aren't working. Our troops are surrendering. The humans are just standing there. They're laughing at us, what do we?" The signal cut out. A flicker of static filled the screen, and then the human voice returned. Calm. Amused. "You weren't supposed to know how to do this, right?" Mockery. From a pre-industrial species who should have been groveling for mercy. Vosk's claws trembled. He had underestimated them. The galaxy had underestimated them. The humans hadn't just fought back. They had warped the very nature of warfare itself. The fleet was gone. What remained was scattered, lost in deep space, crippled beyond recovery. The once mighty invasion force had fled from a species that shouldn't have stood a chance. Across the galaxy, news of the defeat spread. The Zelkor Empire, undefeated for centuries, had been routed in minutes. Other empires scrambled to understand what had happened. Some dismissed it as a fluke. Others whispered of a hidden human weapon, something so advanced it defied reason. Among the Zelkor, fear took root. Their greatest strategists tried to recalculate, to make sense of the impossible. The models failed. Every simulation, every algorithm returned the same result: unknown variables detected. No prediction available. ***. In darkened halls, high-ranking officials spoke in hushed tones. There would be no retaliation. Not against something they couldn't predict. Vosk never returned to the Empire. His name became a curse, his failure a lesson burned into history. And on Earth, humanity celebrated, not with parades, not with speeches, but with memes, laughter, and cat videos. A simple message was broadcast to the stars. A warning. A joke. A promise. Never invade Earth.